Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm joined by my good friend Rince. Say hello.
What's up? How are we doing?
Well, it's good to have you here with me. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about something that I felt the need to regurgitate upon you on my stream. I felt that having a second person to bounce off of might make this information come off a little bit more comprehensible to some people, because strangely enough, when I've attempted to cover this topic in the past, I feel as though I've spoken very clearly, but based on the comments, for one reason or another, it seems as though people just completely miss my point and misunderstand me. So, maybe if I say anything that doesn't make any sense, you can stop me, because you're not like a hyper-leftoid, super, woke person. You're kind of normal, kind of a normie.
Yeah,
and
just
so,
chill.
If I say something that just doesn't make sense, you would let me know. And so I'm curious
I'd
to
call
see
you
if
out.
I'm curious to see if I'm just not people just aren't understanding what I have to say, because I want to talk about a very popular, beloved YouTuber here on the platform named Brandon Herrera. Now this guy, I always mix up where the double R's are on his name. I'm so sorry. Brandon Herrera is an interesting creator. I'm not gonna lie, I'm subscribed to him. I watch his content from time to time. I followed the creation of the AK-50 for years. I thought it was super fucking cool. He's done some pretty funny videos. The Darwin Awards videos are not only funny and entertaining, but they genuinely do feature a lot of common mistakes with firearms. And, if you're someone who handles firearms with any regularity, reminding yourself of the do's and don'ts on a regular basis is never a bad thing. So I like his stuff. And he typically, in the past, would keep in his lane of talking guns, making gun videos, discussing guns, and he would get political when it made sense, particularly with things having to do with gun legislation, especially when it was something very anti-Second Amendment. As someone who's very pro-gun myself, despite being very left-wing, I more often than not find myself agreeing with Brandon Herrera on the issues of firearms more often than not. However, more recently Brandon has dipped a bit into politics. Now I'm not talking about his edgy podcast that he does or just making jokes. I'm talking about a genuine foray into a political career. I've made some of the criticisms I'm going to make in this video in the past, and largely people would respond either by pretending not to understand what my argument was, or by discrediting it by saying, who cares, he's just a GunTuber. But now he's looking like he's going to be a congressman in Texas. He's going to have a job in politics while also being an extremely successful and simped for YouTuber. I think now we can agree that it's acceptable to criticize him. He's going to be in our government now. He's not just a funny guy on YouTube. He's part of the system, or will be. So let's treat him like he will be. So try to forget how cool his videos are, right? His videos aren't going anywhere. Even if his politics are bad, you can still watch and enjoy his videos, even if his politics are bad. I mean, I'm subbed to him. Clearly, I still watch and enjoy his videos, even though his politics are bad. It's called separating the art from the artist. But I think there's some things you should probably know about this guy. You see, his opponent in his congressional race in Texas, Tony Gonzalez, just dropped out, meaning he's basically the set, guaranteed Republican nominee in a pretty red district in a really red state. It's almost certain he's gonna win. Unless the people of his district know what history he has. He's not just some fun, funny macho gun guy. He's got a pretty shady history, and a lot of lefties like to say conservatives, Republicans, hell, Texans are racist, but most of all those groups that I've met have not been racist, at least in my life, so showing them what I have to show them today would presumably bring some things they would have liked to know about to light, and it may color their opinion of Brandon Herrera as a potential political candidate a bit differently. Now, in the past, I made this video called Brandon Herrera Loves the Confederacy, and it got ratioed to hell. This video's got, counting my because I always like my own videos, because, No one's gonna support you in everything but you. You know, I'm my own biggest fan. But this video got like 17,000 views and only 700 likes, which tells you, oh boy, did this get a lot of dislikes compared to likes. It got ratioed to hell. His fans came in. Half of them were saying based, he's pro-Confederacy. The other half were like, who cares? But I want to show you guys this clip. Mind you, what I'm about to show you here has been purged from the internet, probably by a PR firm he hired. This is a thing that a lot of YouTubers like Hassan have done. Like, Hassan has one of the most aggressive PR firms in Hollywood working for him. And so, like, any clips or videos or posts that you make that are, like, cataloging something he's said or done that looks really bad, if people start sourcing it enough, he'll reach out to his PR firm and they'll have them bog you down in legal paperwork until you agree to just take it down. And that's happened to this clip that we're about to watch that thankfully lives on through my old video. So let's take a look at this. This was sort of my first indication that, this Brandon Herrera guy is a bit weird. Sorry if I paused to give my commentary from like a year or so ago here, but you know, not much I can do about that. This is the only copy of this video that exists, and yes, this is Brandon Herrera here. Have you seen this before, by the way, Rince? I'm curious.
I don't think so. I know you made a video on him like a while back, and I think I commented. Like, you know, like my thing with Brandon is, you know, he never really stuck like too much out to me, apart from like when I watched his content, like, you know, getting into GunTube stuff. You know, he never really struck me as anything super like special, but he always did kind of have a weird, like, pretty cringe, to put it bluntly, way of like trying to like shoehorn in some of his like politics. I don't know how to explain it other than the one time when I was watching him shoot. I think you saw this video actually. I think I told you about it. But it was the video where he was like shooting fucking like water jugs, right? And then out of nowhere, he makes one of the like most stereotypical like early 2020s like Republican jokes of like, I'm gonna get canceled on Twitter for that. And it was like the most, I was like, wait, I had to rewind the video like 3 times to get canceled on Twitter for what? Like, I had to rewind 3 times for the punchline, because I was like, what? Like, huh? Like, I don't think even lefties would have found what you said just like right there offensive. Like, it was like the most mild thing ever. And he was like, just offended some pussies. And it's like, brother, what? You know what I mean? So that's my, you know, most of my knowledge regarding Brandon Herrera. You know, GunTuber, gets mildly cringe sometimes, and now he's a politician. Pretty much all I know.
Yeah, and that's more or less his story. I will say the thing that kind of bothered me about this guy before I figured out what we're about to see now was that, and if you're a fan of Brandon Herrera, I'm not saying you need to stop watching him, but once I point this out, it might be hard not to notice, so fair warning. Does it not come off like he's pretending to be a guy from a movie that he saw like decades ago? Like, at some point as like a teenager, he saw a guy in a movie, thought he was cool as fuck, and started emulating him, and still does it now to this day. Because like the way he talks, his mannerisms don't feel natural. They feel like that of like a guy trying to be the kind of guy that he is. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know how to put it into words.
Like, he's trying to sell an image.
He's selling an image. That's a good way of putting it. Exactly.
Yeah.
That aside, though, let's take a look at this clip that Brandon Herrera fans do not like you showing this clip.
Hi there, I'm
yes,
Brandon
this
Herrera
is him.
with Fayetteville Arsenal Camp number 168, and welcome to the SCV. The
Arsenal
SCV,
Camp.
or the Sons of Confederate Veterans, is a historical honor society dedicated to preserving Confederate heritage and learning more about our ancestors who fought and died in the War of Northern Aggression. The SCV is open to any male over the age of 12 years old who has an ancestor who fought in the Confederate Army.
Yeah, so there's a bit to pull from here. When I originally saw this clip, I didn't really think much on it other than, oh, so he was a part of some random Confederate Heritage Society. He calls it the War of Northern Aggression here. He's wearing the Confederate flag shirt. He talks about being a son of Confederate veterans. But one of my fans decided to do a little bit of a deep dive off of this information. It was the Sons of Confederate Veterans, That's a name that he drops, that he's a member of, that he is making an ad for. He's like doing propaganda for this Confederate Heritage Society. But he also mentions this Arsenal Camp thing. And that like Arsenal Camp 18, I think it was, completely rolled by. Went over my head. I didn't even think about it when he said that when I first saw this clip. But one of my fans went on a bit of a deep dive. I want to give them a big shout out. Smaxy Miguel, I believe it was, went on a deep dive and found a bunch of information cross-referencing things that are said here and that are included on Brandon Herrera's Wikipedia page. So if we go to his wiki page, we can go down to his controversies. And there's some basic stuff here. Like, most of this stuff is dumb. Like, at one point, he was on a podcast, and he made a joke about how he's similar to a war veteran because he thinks about putting a gun in his mouth often or something. And I'll be honest, I would say, as someone who's I call him a gun educator, as someone who's a gun educator, making jokes about firearm-related self-inflicted gunshot wounds and, like, you wanting to do that is questionable, because one of the core tenets of firearm safety is to never point a gun at yourself or anyone else unless they need to be shot. But, you know, that aside, I don't think it's that big of a deal. What I want to talk about is what we can read very blatantly on the Wikipedia page. Since 2008, so from 2008 to today, Brandon Herrera has also been a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, a neo-Confederate organization that promotes the lost cause, basically the belief that, like, the Civil War never ended and that we're basically still fighting, like, the battle of, like, slavery versus freedom, like South versus North. Brandon Herrera's name is listed as a new member on the 2008 May/June issue of Confederate Veteran magazine and makes multiple appearances in his local chapter's social media site. He appeared in welcome videos produced by the organization, where he referred to the American Civil War varyingly as the War of Northern Aggression, that was in the video we just saw, and the War for Southern Independence, and advertised the group's annual Yankee Shoot, where members used antique rifles to shoot at posters of their favorite Yankees, that being, like, the people who fought against slavery, against the Confederacy. Herrera's support for the Sons of Confederate Veterans organization was stated in the videos, citing the need to preserve history because those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, quote unquote. Now, going off of this, we have a bit of an idea of his deal, but if you look on Facebook, things get kind of interesting. Remember what I mentioned before, the whole Fayetteville Arsenal Camp thing? As it turns out, he said Fayetteville Arsenal Camp 168. And this Confederate reenactment group, site, organization, has a social media page. As you can see, it's got the Confederate flag and everything. Like, there is nothing not Confederate about this. But you have Brandon Herrera here, in a much more recognizable form. Like, that is Brandon Herrera right there. Here, I think I can blow it up. Yeah, there we go. That's him. Literally, wait, hold on. It literally, he's tagged. He's literally tagged as being him. I think anyone can point that out as being Brandon Herrera. That's definitely him. He said he went here in the video we watched. And then we can go back in time. 2013. Here's a younger Brandon Herrera. Mind you, this first clip, this is him in 2019. And then this is him in 2013, carrying Confederate flags in a Confederate march with a bunch of guys. Here we have him in a gray uniform, standing alongside some other gentlemen back in 2016. And I believe here we have him just in, this is him without a beard, in the back of a kayak, I'm guessing. I can't see the under half of this image because of this stupid Facebook pop-up, but I guess that's him without the beard, like a younger him from 2013 when he first joined, and he hadn't, like, grown out facial hair. So this guy is like, he is like a veteran. he has been part of this Confederate Heritage Society longer than the Confederacy existed. And he is still in it. And meanwhile, he is a immensely successful GunTuber with a massive following, and when you call him out, his following will come down on you like hell, all defending while simultaneously denying all of this. If you don't believe me, go down to the comments. Now, I will say, as of late, my previous videos on Brandon Herrera have seen a bit of a resurgence in positivity and viewership. I've seen a lot of positive comments. Clearly, people in Brandon's district are looking into this and looking at his history, and my video is one of the only ones out there exposing him, so they naturally found me. But hopefully this video, a bit newer, a bit more relevant, will reach the right people. If you know anybody who lives in Texas, share this video to them, because I think it's really important that we keep someone who's already so influential and wealthy, who has successfully hidden a history like this, from holding office. And that's what I'm fighting for here. I don't think Brandon Herrera needs to be banned from YouTube. I don't think people need to stop watching Brandon Herrera or supporting him. But I don't think he should be in a position of power in our country when he's pro-trader. Personally, that's just... I like America.
Yeah.
Anyway, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You got.
Let me. I think you were about to segue me in, and I'll say this right for the Brandon Herrera like fanboys that just are like, no, don't criticize him, bro. He's just a YouTuber, or that might defend this just to like defend him. It's funny we talk about American heritage and old American history and all that, and it's like, wasn't this country founded on not being afraid to criticize those who are in charge? Don't get me wrong. All right, I'm not saying Brandon Herrera's maybe he's trying to open up that runway. But I'm not saying he's the president or anything, but still, he's somebody that's going to be in the government. He's still going to be somebody with power, right? And man, I'm not going to lie. A lot of the people that, run around with the American flag and MAGA hats and just ooh, America, fuck yeah, and then bald eagle screeches are surprisingly very, to put it bluntly, just limp-dicked when it comes to criticizing and holding their government accountable, which I think personally is one of the cornerstones of American just politics and culture, is not being afraid of telling the big man to go fuck himself, essentially. Right. And, I think people just gotta stop being so, afraid of just being you know what? I don't agree with this. All right. We gotta stop the hive minding in, politics and, even in culture, too. When a criticism gets brought up about somebody, instead of being retarded about it and being no, dismissing it, maybe instead be you know what? That is pretty weird. Why is he doing that? Start asking questions. I think people... And I think this really started with Trump. People have gotten a lot more brainwashed and scared to ask questions. And I think that, actually, I take that. I don't think it started with Trump. I think Trump made it worse, but I think it started with, social media and, the idolization of, influencers and whatnot. And I think Trump is just a politicized version of that. So, yeah, like I said, to the Brandon Herrera fanboys that'll probably, start tweaking in the comments, just take a step back. All right, take a step back from the keyboard and start thinking, why am I defending this guy that I don't know really on a personal level so hard, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, just think about it. What do you really gain from dick riding for this guy? Just stop and think for a second. I like that. That's a good take. I presume nothing I said in this video was that crazy. No big jumps and conclusions. I feel like if I'm gonna call Brandon Herrera pro-Confederacy, I feel like I provided pretty ample evidence that he is, though I have no doubt the doubters will still be in the comments, loud and proud.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, to kind of contest you a little bit, or challenge you a little bit, I would say, or not challenge, but to add a bit of a nuance to this, I'm not the type to and I don't think you're the type either, but I want to make this clear that, we're not necessarily trying to tone police people or trying to, what is it called? I'm not up to date with internet, terminology, but purity testing or whatever.
Oh, purity test, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's the right
yeah.
word.
Or like, oh, you said like a slur one time 20 years ago in a fucking old Call of Duty lobby or something. Like, nobody's trying to do that. But it is pretty suspicious when you look at like the political leanings of this person, and then you look at their past, and then you look at like how they've, instead of, you know, like if they disagreed with it and they want to come out and be like, yeah, I don't rock with that anymore, that's not really my thing, then, you know, that's different, right? If people started like if, you know, if Brandon Herrera came out and was like, yeah, I got a, you know, odd past, and you know, I don't really stand by that stuff anymore, that's different, because, you know, I think people can change. You know, I think people can improve. But you know, when you go about it in such a sketchy way where it's like, quick, bury it. And also, I don't know if he's ever responded to like one of these like people, because I don't think you're the first one to call him out. I think people have called him out for this before, and I think he responded, just like dismissing them. If not, maybe it was one of the like people in the audience or something. Either way, it's strange how all of this is being handled. You know, it's odd. That's what, like, I think that's the best way to put it. It's just, it's really odd. Like, if you're not pro Confederacy, then why not just say that? You know what I mean? Freedom of speech, right? We can say whatever we want. Like, you know, come out and say that you're not pro Confederacy. Boom. Nobody's stopping you. You know what I mean?
You remember that deranged video about Wendigoon? That was like, you see, because Wendigoon is from the South, and he wears Hawaiian shirts, he must be secretly right-wing. That video was fucking retarded. It was a really bad video. It was really, really horrible. And Wendigoon, from everything that I've gathered, like vibe checks from watching things like Creepcast, seems left-leaning, and maybe even like starting to get more left-leaning over time. Yeah, Wendigoon and Brandon Herrera are friends, but Brandon Herrera is friends with every big YouTuber. He hosts these big like YouTuber shooting range events where like half of every YouTuber you watch pretty much goes to these events, and he's like the host of it. And like all the GunTubers are there. They teach like the YouTubers who've never shot before how to shoot, and they'll do it with like videos, and they do this like yearly. So Brandon Herrera is like a pillar of the YouTube community, running for politics now. Already one of these figures who he's unassailable. You cannot criticize him. It's not allowed. Now he's running for politics, and he's successfully hidden this history from you. And I'm going to get a lot of shit for talking about this, and I might even get hit by his PR firm for talking about this. If that happens, then I'll be sure to keep you guys updated, but with that said, I think that's all I have to say about this. Hopefully, Brandon Herrera's PR firm does not go after me for this video. That said, if you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help a lot. Let me know what you think of this whole situation down in the comments. Help to maybe flood out some of the hate. Leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me in the future. Follow my social medias linked down below, and, you know, hopefully I'll see you in the future. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.